of the Cambodian culture that is drinking unclean water, cooking with it, and when I say unclean water, the most common contaminant is human waste. So that carries the real nasty stuff. Typhoid, encephalitis, dysentery, polio, E. coli, like it's not everything that you could possibly get from drinking unclean water is there. So what that leads to is kids, it's 1 in 9 children don't live past their first year because they get chronic diarrhea, they dehydrated, and they don't survive. From that, kids that do make it on, which the infant mortality rate there is highest in all of Asia. The ones that do make it on, they're missing a lot of school because they're chronically ill, which leads them to be behind in their classes, which leads them to drop out. Once they're at an age where they can either go on to get an education, they're so many years behind in school, their parents just say, you got to start, farming, selling stuff at the market, but a lot of them it is stealing or selling little trinkets to tourists. So that's, tourism does have an impact, and it's easy money. But the chronic illness, which leads to lack of school, and that leads to poverty. So it's just like it's a catch-22. It just perpetuates the entire cycle. So that's in Siem Reap. Sahunithville this is like where you would want to go if you went to Cambodia. Beautiful beaches, a lot of Americans, a lot of Germans and people from the UK there. Beautiful, beautiful beaches. But these 5-star, 5-diamond resorts are pumping their waste out directly onto the beach where these kids literally live. This is where they bathe. They're called beach kids. There are organizations there directly that all they do is they help these kids because there is such a large community of them, and they're literally living in the alleys behind these 5-diamond resorts. But they're working on their water issues, and they just need some more help. Then Phnom Penh, they have recently, in the past 15 years, they have gotten a whole new water system. There is a gentleman, Chom Pen, I believe his name is, and he's come in and he has gutted their entire water system. Phnom Penh now has a better water system than we have here in the U.S. across the board. Their water is impeccable, flawless, and that is where there is a whole new art revival. If you just go online and you Google Phnom Penh, there is an art revival, there is a movement, there's culture, there's festivities, there's whole 9 yards. There are master artists now making organizations to teach their art that are thousands of years old to new students, because now they're not so scared of sharing this art form. It's not nearly much of a threat, but we want the underlying theme throughout the film to be, if you take care of a community's basic needs, we're going to focus on water, but if we take care of their basic needs, look at the flower that can grow. And Susie agrees. But basically, there's been such a movement in Phnom Penh that we don't think it's by chance that this is the city that has an impeccable water system. So we want to go and kind of tell these stories and lend that as hope. There is something that can be done. There's already a movement happening. This isn't hopeless, So, and then Dana's going to tell us a little bit about how.
My name's Dana Lyman. I did a bunch of work for one company doing grant research. I'm basically a research monkey, so that's all I do is look stuff up for people. But basically I'm going to talk about the areas that we're going to, the organizations that we're in contact with in each location. Because the first one we're going to is Phnom Penh, and we're already in contact with one of the biggest organizations in that area. It's called Cambodian Living Arts. And it was actually founded by a survivor from the Khmer Rouge, where he was forced as a child to play music, death songs basically, while intellectuals were being killed in the back. And they couldn't react, they had to witness it as a child. And he grew up and became an activist and started this foundation where basically he wants to keep the Cambodian traditional arts alive. And they've done an excellent job finding positions for these people so that they can actually make a living performing their arts, and kind of spread the education of these arts and all the different things, the dances, the instruments that they play, the songs, everything. And so they're a really excellent organization we're already in contact with in Phnom Penh. And then the other one is Meta House. which is actually an art exhibition hall that was started by a man from Germany, I believe, named Nico. And he went in and started it with a bunch of the Cambodian artists there because he found the youth movement was starting to rise up. And he started about 15 years ago when the water system improved, and he saw that there was a great need for exhibition and different kinds of media coming into their art because the art is so fresh right now. And they have so much to say about what happened to the generation just before them. So that is one location we're really excited for because it truly shows the impact that when you take care of that need, what can kind of grow on the outside of that. These people have jobs, they do other things, but they now have time for artwork. And they now have time to practice these things, learn these skills, and pass them on to their children. And the other location we'll be going to is Sihanoukville. And we're in contact with an organization called Let Us Create. And they offer kind of a safe space for the children there. It's away from tourist eyes is what they love to put up on all of their websites, all their everything. You cannot tour this place. It is a place for the kids to go. They can take karate lessons, they can take all kinds of extracurriculars, yoga, but they also can draw and paint and do all of these things away from people videotaping them and watching them and making a spectacle of them. And basically they have other resources they offer to the entire family in the communities where they offer them health care, different kind of vocational training and university funding and things like that. And so the other location we're going to at the end is Siem Reap. And the two foundations that we're working with there, the first one is Journeys Within Our Community. And they run a lot of different outreach programs into their community also. All of these organizations are very culturally sustainable. They all work with the community to kind of feed back into it, what they need, and then they give them that. And they find ways to make it so that they can find it for themselves. They can do it themselves so that they don't need the organization, they don't need the funding anymore. And Journeys Within Our Community does that with their clean water projects, and actually the other organization, Trailblazer, does it also, where they go in and they educate the whole community about sanitation, health, clean water, because most of these people just don't know that they shouldn't be digging a ditch and drinking their water out of it. So when they educate them, they're able to put those things into practice. They get sanitation kits. They teach them how to work on the wells that they're putting in. They pick people to train so that they know how to fix the well if something happens.